welcome back. I hope you're all safe and doing well. So today we're going to look at the theme of miasma, which means pollution, and we're going to focus in on the opening of the tragedy together. Okay, so as I've said in previous videos, tragedies begin often with a prologue. Whoever delivers the prologue really drives the narrative, and it also gives us an idea, often on what kind of myth is at play, where the play is set. So in Sophocles Oedipus the King, Oedipus comes out first, unsurprisingly, and he starts to deliver a prologue, but it kind of degenerates into a dialogue between himself and the priest. Oedipus takes the role of king and leader of his people. He calls them his children. So children, latest in the line of ancient Cadmus, what is the meaning of your sitting here? Why these suppliant branches? Why these garlands? The city is full of smoke of incense, prayers to the healing god, lamentations all at once. So for Oedipus at the moment, on stage, Sophocles using the chorus, perhaps in the orchestra, perhaps wrapped around the stage, and having a chorus of Theban citizens to depict the public. They're approaching the king as suppliants because there is a plague in Thebes. So that is the premise, that is the start, and that is where miasma or pollution comes into play. Okay, so what Sophocles does is he uses the opening of Oedipus the King to set up a whodunit, where Oedipus realises that there's pollution in his kingdom, realises that that is making his citizens really ill, and realises that the cause of this is the death of King Laius and the fact that that has not been solved, okay? And he has no idea at this point that he is the murderer of his own father, King Laius. So let's unpack this idea of miasma a little bit more. Miasma is a Greek word. You might have heard it in relation to Shakespearean tragedies and things like that as well. Miasma means pollution, but in a really particular sense. So the idea of blood guilt, so killing kindred is going to bring miasma onto your household. The idea of a religious pollution, something that could lead to vengeance, something that will, practically speaking, make you ostracised from different city-states. Miasma or pollution in Greek tragedy sort of trumps moral guilt. So when you're judging characters in Greek tragedy, you might really put your moral head on and think about it in terms of motive and kind of just reasoning. But really, pollution trumps all that. If you commit a crime against a relative, you are polluted. And that is the premise of Oedipus the King. So at the outset, the priest comes in to kind of crib this a little bit for Oedipus and put him on the right track. He says, Oedipus, ruler of my country, you see us and you see our different ages as we take our seats at your altars. Some naked strong enough to fly far, others heavy with years. So he's saying that even children are being affected by the plague. And what's funny about the way that Oedipus opens up the play is that the first word he says is children. He addresses the whole community as his family, and that's a nod to the incest that we're going to start to see unravel when we learn about Oedipus having married his mother. So the first word, the first line of the play really sets up some of the problems we're going to see down the line. So this makes clear that Oedipus is an out-of-towner who has come to Thebes. So the Thebans are the children of Cadmus, he's the sort of archetypal king. And the priest explains this for our benefit. I wouldn't liken you to a god, Oedipus, nor would these children sitting here as suppliants. No, we consider you foremost among men in the hazards of life, and when we have to deal with powers more than human, it was you that came to the town of Cadmus and freed us of the tax we paid the cruel Sphinx. No one taught you to do that, we did not help you. So the background story, as you can see in the image thumbnail, really famous picture from Greek pottery, is Oedipus solving the riddle of the Sphinx and ending some of the suffering of the Thebans because the Sphinx has been afflicting them. So he's earned his right as king in Thebes, but it also highlights that he's an out-of-towner, he's not from around here. So when the whodunit starts to get set up at the beginning of Sophocles Oedipus the King, it kind of puts Oedipus in the frame because we know he wasn't based in Thebes, okay? And again, when Oedipus addresses the people, children, you have my sympathy. Known and not unknown to me are the needs that brought you here, for well I know you are all sick, yet none so sick as I. The pain you feel comes to each of you alone, apart from others, but my heart groans for city and self and you alike. So here we have like a layer of irony coming in, where Oedipus is, he's really kind of acknowledging his role in the pollution at Thebes without knowing it. So he says, I know everything now, it's not unknown to me, and no one's as sick as I am. And that's true because he's the root cause of all of the miasma. The guilt really lies with him. And the irony is that, of course, he doesn't have a clue that that is actually the case. So Sophocles is really priming us for the whodunit that's going to be the premise of much of the play. So if we get through the exchange with Oedipus and the priest, we see Creon enters. And Creon is Jocasta's brother. So Creon, unbeknown to Oedipus, is his uncle. He is also his brother-in-law. So just get your head around that for a second. He's his uncle and his brother-in-law. He's also someone who Oedipus eventually becomes suspicious of because Creon is also an eligible contendant for the throne. Had Oedipus not appeared and Jocasta had not remarried, Creon would have presumably taken over rule of Thebes. And this is where we get to the root issue. It's around line 100 where we start to see the problem with the death of Laius, and we get to the root cause of the pollution at Thebes. Okay, so we get this idea of blood crime when Creon has consulted Apollo. Well then, what I heard from the god was this: Phoebus orders us, my lord, to expel a pollution nurtured in this land of ours, and not still nurture it till it's past cure. And how rid of ourselves of it? What's the remedy? And Creon says, exile or killing in return for killing, since it's blood that engulfs the city now. Okay, so this idea of blood crime and blood guilt is really clear. It's what's making the city sick, and so Oedipus is the cause of all the trouble in Thebes but has no idea yet. And here, the death of Laius is laid out. We had a leader, my lord, Laius. He ruled this land before you took the city's helm. I know of him by hearsay, I never saw him. Well, he died, and the good commands us now to punish his murderers, whoever they are. But where are they? The track of this old crime so faded now, where will it be found? Here, he said, in this land, the thing pursued is catchable, the thing ignored escapes. Okay, so really, what the Oracle of Apollo is saying is you need to look for this properly. You'll get it in the end. And it becomes clear that Laius died when he was out travelling, and he was killed by a bandit as far as anybody knows. So the whodunit is totally set up, and Oedipus is so convinced about trying to find the killer. I'll bring them back to light from the beginning. Phoebus is right, and so are you, Creon, to show concern for the man who was killed. And now you'll see me also take his side, as I should, supporting land and God together. It's not for the sake of a distant friend that I'll dispel this pollution, but for my own. For the man who killed him may well want to turn on me with the same violence. By taking up his cause, I help myself. So Sophocles isn't really very subtle with the dramatic irony that we see in Oedipus the King, and we'll have a whole video on this later on. But the pollution at Thebes is a result of the blood crime of Oedipus killing Laius. Oedipus doesn't know that yet. Oedipus assumes it's because it's an unsolved, unpunished crime that he is now going to solve. And that's the premise of the action at Thebes. There is also a layer of miasma because of the incest at Thebes, because Oedipus has not only married his mother but had children with her. And Sophocles seems to hint at this in the way that Oedipus refers to the Thebans as his children. And then what we get is the chorus coming in from like lines 133 to 218. Don't ever ignore the chorus. They are the ones afflicted here, and they help bring a lot of the significance of these themes to the forefront. The city perishing loses count of her dead, her sons unpitied. No one to lament them, strew the ground, to breed yet still more death. Here and there young wives and grey-haired mothers huddle at the altars, groaning, crying to be freed of pain. The pyre blazes to the sound of voices keening. Oh, against all this, golden daughter of Zeus, send us protection. So what the chorus are able to do here, as elsewhere, is they give an idea and a feeling of what the environment is like. Okay, I hope that was helpful. Don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the notification button to see the videos that are coming out soon. Stay safe, bye.